Chicago guy. I read you're a big Bulls fan.
I grew up a Bulls fan.
Oh.
So it's probably the Kirk Heinrich, Ben Gordon teams.
Oh yeah, Tyson
Mid
Chandler.
2000s, super scrappy. One year they started 0-9. Like that year was really the first year where my fandom started for basketball for the NBA. I played basketball, but then yeah, for sure, you grow up a Bulls fan. You grew up tracking that team, and obviously the Darrick Rose teams. That was a blast to watch. I was in high school for his MVP. I think I was a sophomore in high school the year he won MVP. But like once I started getting down this path, and like in 2010, 2011, and 11, 12, you like lose your fandom. You kind of become a fan of, it's tough to say in a like selfish way. You don't become a fan of yourself, but you become a fan of the stories that you're either telling or you're working on. So in a lot of ways, it's very, very self-centered, and you're thinking very much like, not me, but like, all right, this is what I'm working on, or like this player I'm going to interview, or this is, kind of like you guys. You guys are working on interviewing whoever. You put your focus on that. And so that kind of distracts you away from like having an actual fandom. So, I obviously have friends that are Bulls fans. I kind of let go, and it's weird because it kind of just happened naturally because I just became obsessed with the stories, with the people, that I have relationships with and things like that.
When you speak on stories, another thing that I heard you speak on before was being in the heat of experiences. What does that necessarily mean when you say that? Why is that important to you?
I think it's important because like actually going out and experiencing what it is you want to do, whether it's, for me, it was covering games, interviewing players, breaking stories, going and covering, whether it's summer league, the finals, like going out and actually being a part of that versus being in the classroom, at school. So I graduated Loyola Chicago. Shout out Loyola Chicago. Shout out the Ramblers. Shout out Sister Jean. I graduated in 2017. The year after I graduate, they go to the final. They go to the Final Four, which was a blast. I was there. It was fun to be a part of. Dante Ingram. We actually shout out Dante Ingram. We had small group communication class. He was in the class. Super dope guy. Everyone on that team, really good people. But like I didn't get any enjoyment or anything fulfilling when I was actually in the classroom. Obviously, I think it all helped me in the long run, and I was able to absorb a lot of the things that now I think about. But what really helped me was actually going and traveling to Milwaukee or traveling to Indianapolis to go cover games, or going to Summer League, going to the NBA Finals. My first NBA Finals was 2013. I was 19 years old.
Still waiting.
Whoa.
You guys got to go.
I know. Hopefully this is the year.
I think this year. This year we'll make it happen.
You make a lot of sense. So we were at the media day, and that was our first time experiencing that. And obviously we talked about media day for X amount of years, but to actually be there and to, see these players doing their interviews, like one of my favorite parts is not even like them really answering a question, but Luka was, just talking, and he answered questions like 3 different languages. And it's just like to be there in moment, it's just like, wow, it's just like difference between just like watch him on a court or, watch him in a video.
Yeah, getting like to actually build those relationships with, I mean, it could even be a player, it could be, industry people. Like those are to me like more meaningful, and like being a part of that. And when I was starting out, when I was 17 years old, 16 years old, I was literally cold calling people. Any email, phone number, anything I could find online, whether it was team, could be an agent, could be whatever really I could find on Google.com, I was just hunting down. And some people responded, some didn't. You have to get lucky along the way. And but I think for me, just going back to your question, like actually going out and experiencing all that, like that changed everything for me, and definitely helped me in many more ways than like being in the classroom could have.
What would you say is the key to, like, if people do want to get into like your field where they're like breaking news and doing stuff like that, how do you even get into that like field to where you're breaking big news?
Well, when I first started, I didn't think I was going to be in that, because when I first started, I was writing a lot. So my passion was writing. My passion was playing basketball. So I got cut playing basketball, and once I got cut, it's like, all right, I'm not gonna be like MJ. I got cut sophomore year of high school. Like I'm not gonna be
similar.
I'm not gonna
mine
be
was
MJ.
varsity. Mine was varsity.
I'm not gonna be MJ and make it to the league, unfortunately. But I loved basketball. I loved writing, and so kind of combined both passions. And I just started doing like analysis stories and just writing. I was writing 3,000, 4,000 words a day.
Sheesh.
Junior year of high school, sophomore year of high school, senior year of high school. I don't think I write that much anymore. Fortunately or unfortunately, I don't have to write that much anymore. But I think that allowed me to find my voice. So the biggest advice I would give to anyone, if you're trying to get into not only breaking news or whatever, like media in general, is find your voice. You guys find your voice through being on camera and talking and podcasting and doing all that. Like, I wasn't even thinking about being on camera or doing any of that when I started out. I was just a straight writer. I was doing analysis stories, and then from there, you make contacts, you break a story, you break a 10-day, you break a minimum contract, and it's just like small wins. You just build small wins, build small goals, accomplish them, make more goals, and you just keep going. And I still don't think it's ended. I still feel like, you guys look hungry. Like, I feel like I'm the same way. I still don't feel like I've accomplished anything. So. A lot more to do.
Yeah, when you're young, I still feel like you still had that urge to, like, I could still accomplish more, and there's still more things I want to. Like, we still haven't gone to NBA Finals, like you said. There's still more things we want to get to and do as a group.
I wanted to ask you about the location part, because in sports media, it feels like unless you're covering a team in the market, it's like move to New York or move to LA to cover sports, and here you are as basically one of the few people that don't cover Bulls exclusively living in Chicago. And I wanted to know, is that by design? Is it like that you wanted to stay close to home, or it's just a perfect combination with stadium?
I definitely want to stay close to home. My whole family's out here, super close to my mom. She's out here. So, Chicago's still a really big city.
For sure.
Now we're not gonna dog on our city. Like, for sure, New York, LA, like, everyone wants to make, a big deal out of being in those cities. And I spend, you guys have traveled to both cities too. Like, I like New York. I like LA, but I feel like Chicago is the perfect middle ground.
Yes, it is. Talk about
it. New York is the hustle and bustle. It's always like a million miles a second. And I like that because I go 1 week during the draft and I'm already mentally, emotionally, physically a million miles per second. So being a part of that environment, I feel right at home.
Right.
But then in normal times, I don't know if I would like that. And then in LA, super laid back.
So laid back.
Super laid back.
Too laid back.
And again, I could spend a week there, but then you come home to your roots, blue collar city, and I think Chicago's like a perfect balance of both. Yeah. And for me, what really drew me to Chicago, which is better to me than the other places, is having 3 NBA markets, right? The Bulls, the Bucks, and the Pacers.
All driving distance, all very close.
All very close to each other. And so I was covering games in Milwaukee and Indianapolis when I was, in high school and early in college, and like, missing out on parties, missing out on really trying to get good grades. I was just, C's get degrees. Like, that was really my philosophy. So
I read about that. You was taking a Camry.
Yeah, my mom's.
Gas and the
my mom's. I even got, I don't know if I think I might have told this story, but not in depth. I got like 3 speeding tickets in a month. 4 speeding tickets in a month. I got my license suspended. So, yeah, because I guess you don't want to be caught speeding, that many times. Yeah. When I was on those drives from like Indianapolis back to Chicago and I have a final the next day, I'm like rushing to get home so I get like at least 3 hours of sleep before a final the next day. And I'm going, probably 85 on a 60.
So the 3 hours of sleep thing is something that's been going on since high school. Like, I heard you say that you still only get like 3-4 hours of sleep still.
Yeah, I try to get more than that sometimes, but especially during the weekday. It's like you're so like focused and ready to get to the next day, to be honest with you. So I'm kind of just waiting.
So how demanding is it, technically? How much free time do you have in your hands?
I think you kind of figure it out as the day goes on. You kind of pick and choose your spots, pick and choose which weekends, which days out of the weekends you can, take family time. That's really how I spend my time. Is like a lot of time with my family, a lot of time,
What do you like to do, like, in that time?
Go out to eat. Top golf is always a good vibe.
Top golf, okay.
I don't know why I knew you were gonna say. I knew you were gonna say top golf
because it's like it's a little bit of an activity.
Yeah.
Then you also get some time to like spend with people.
Right.
It's like the best middle ground. I'm not gonna take
Top Golf ambassador.
I still haven't.
You got the hookups there or what?
No, I don't.
He might as well. But every time we have a friend who was in the Marines.
Yeah.
And when he comes on, he always want to hang out. Anytime it's time to do anything like that.
It's a great hangout
He
spot.
says Top Golf. We're going to go to Top Golf. Y'all want to go to Top Golf? Let's go to Top Golf.
It's like an outdoor event that you don't need to plan for. Like, oh, it's cold, so let me get a jacket.
Yeah.
Like, it's. I like it.
And I don't know why. I feel it's fun teeing off balls. Like it's fun doing that to me. I don't know why.
Take your turns, and everyone can do it. My mom can do it. My
Yeah.
sister can
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
It's
it
like a
doesn't
fun
matter.
little competitive game too. It's nice.
You been to
It's-
Push Shack?
I don't think I have. No.
Gotta go to Push
Relatively
Shack.
local.
Push Shack, I like.
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
I
I've been
like-
to Big Little Putt.
Oh, I haven't heard of that
I
one.
haven't heard of that.
Hold up.
Push Shack is like you go. It's indoor. You go around and it's like mini golf, but it has trivia. But it
Yeah.
also has
It's
drinks.
called
It has
Big
food.
Mini Putt, actually.
Big
Big
mini
Okay.
putt. Big mini.
Yeah.
You might have to check that
On
out.
Milwaukee Ave. Good
Yeah.
spot. Good spot.
Might have to check
Go on
that
the
out.
holidays, you know. Nice little vibe. Nice little vibe. But yeah, I mean, workout. You know, I still love playing basketball. It's just hard for me
Yeah.
to mentally focus on the
You
game.
could be our
Because-
fifth.
Because I'll definitely we'll get runs going. We gotta do runs at like 9-10 p.m. Where hopefully
That's the best
it's
time.
a little bit of downtime
Yeah.
in the schedule, but it's hard for me like mentally focus because I want to focus on the game, but like,
Right.
half my mind is on my phone.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's,
yeah,
not,
for
it's
sure.
not healthy. It's not a healthy playing style.
I'm loving some of these conversations that we're having because the important thing for me while you're here is the fact that we have a lot of young adults who watch us and they aspire to get in this industry some way, fashion, or form, whether it's being in a podcast, a YouTuber, doing what you're doing, being a reporter, writing columns for somebody. And I think you're hitting on a lot of good topics. One of the things I wanted to ask was the process of building a source. Because I would imagine, like hypothetically speaking, I could text you and I could give you information about Kenny. How do you confirm me as a source to be reliable enough and comfortable enough to take my information that I'm giving you and put it out, if that makes sense? Because I would imagine you have a lot of people trying to tell you things. How do you
my
weave
God.
out the bullshit?
I mean, that's really what the job is now, is weeding out the BS. That's literally what I feel like that's what my job has become. Because there's so much stuff, especially now when you go on social media, there's a lot of stuff that floats out there. So usually before it floats out there, it's making its way to me and I'm supposed to decipher what's real, what's not real. But I think the biggest thing is like what you just said, is like figuring out who's BSing you versus who's being honest with you versus if there is an agenda to it and there's truth to it, how do we weed through that and get to as much to the truth as possible? Because yes, my job is to be first, but also my job more than anything is to be 100% accurate. And even when I'm 98% right on a story and there's that 2% that's a little off, I can't even sleep. Like I like lose my mind. It's like
Yeah.
What's the
it's
most
torturous.
BS story you've received where you're just like, damn, I'm so glad I ain't put this out?
How you know he ain't put it out?
Oh,
I'm just
I was gonna say, what's the most BS one you put out
I'm trying to
that you
think.
could think of off top?
Y'all gonna have this man lose his sources. Y'all better.
No, I mean, a lot of it is just like technical stuff, right? If a guy signs a, 4-year deal, but you might, but the team might not be allowed to sign to a 4-year deal. Like, they can only do 3-year deals, so they, you kind of got it right, but then you still kind of, like the other day. So the NFL draft. So
I saw you tweet about it.
So first pick Bryce Young, second pick C.J. Stroud, third pick Will Anderson Jr. And all 3 picks are right, but then the third pick, it got traded from the Cardinals to the Texans.
Yeah.
So when I put it out, all right, Cardinals selecting him. Now what I can't account for, unfortunately, as a quasi NFL insider, is the trade.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave that to the Ian
Yeah.
Rappaport to the world. Right. And so when I broke the pick and then the trade came out, yeah, people saying, oh, it's wrong or whatever, and I'm like, I mean, the pick is right.
the
But you know
team,
what?
yeah,
Now I'm
yeah.
gonna, next year when I'm sharpened now. I'm sharpened the iron on this one.
I appreciate what you do, and I love it. But I'm gonna be honest with you while you're here. I think you're a year older than me. You're 29. I'm
yep.
28. So we come from the same era. The era of watching the NBA draft and having the pick be an element of surprise, you have taken that from me.
That's the only time we turn the noties off.
You
That
have
one
taken
day, just that one
from
day.
me to watch it and be like, yo, what pick we get in? And it's like, you tell me
You
there's
can watch for the suspense. You can watch for the suspense and also see if I'm accurate.
but
Because there also have been years. Oh, here's a good one. Keldon Johnson. The Cavs had, narrowed in on selecting him. And I remember I put out
You said they
Cavaliers.
narrowed it in. You got to make sure you frame it right.
Cavaliers plan to select Keldon Johnson. I think it was the 29th overall pick. And literally with 30 seconds, there's a timer. I think with like 4:50 I put out, all right, they're going Keldon Johnson. And then with like 30 seconds they switched. They went from Keldon Johnson to DJ Windler.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
They made a mistake.
you said it, not me.
Yeah.
Dylan Windler had a little sniper on.
Oh,
He just
Dylan
can't
Windler, my
just
bad.
can't
Dylan
stay
Windler.
healthy.
Yeah,
Dylan Windler.
he's a Twitch streamer too.
Is
Plays
he?
Fortnite.
Oh.
That's what's up.
Yep.
So, that was kind of, it was kind of off. So you can follow me and follow the draft at the same time. It could be a fun experience to see how wrong I am, how right I am.
98% of the time, like you said previously, you are right.
Was there
And I have to still watch because there's the trade element. That
wasn't
I'm
there a
trying to keep up
hiccup
with.
this year in the draft with the Knicks?
Yes, because we traded the pick.
Yeah,
and
they
It was a
traded the pick.
lot of
Yeah, yeah,
confusion.
yeah.
I remember that one.
So that one was an interesting one because Jalen Duren drafted by the Knicks, and then they traded him. So I think it came out that the Pistons are drafting Jalen Duren. Everyone's like, how the Pistons drafted him?
Right.
They must have traded for that.
Yeah.
I think it was number 13. Was
Mhm.
it number 13 or
I
number
think so.
Some in that
Yeah,
realm.
something
yeah,
like
a
that,
lottery
yeah.
pick. And everyone's like, or maybe it was number 9. Everyone was like, how did the Pistons do that? And then like I'm scrambling trying to figure it out. And then I think I put out, they're trading Jalen Duren and Kemba Walker to the Pistons. I think they got back, whatever they got back. But yeah, there's always confusion. That's why
Right.
it's funny. The NFL draft, I get caught in that one. It's like this happens in the NBA too. But the only other thing that doesn't happen in the NFL that I found out is when a guy gets drafted, like when Will Anderson Jr. goes on stage on the podium, he gets his Texans hat
Oh,
That's
and his
good.
jersey.
The NBA doesn't do that, right?
In the
no,
NBA, it
that
doesn't
always
happen.
Yeah.
threw me off too.
Larry Markkinen has a Minnesota Timberwolves picture instead of a Bulls picture, even though we knew the trade happened.
Mikal Bridges.
Mikal
He
Bridges.
got
Philly.
the Will Anderson situation is exactly what happened with Mikal Bridges. He gets drafted by Philly, and then I remember I think he's going to the podium, and I put out he got traded to the Suns, so he's doing his post-draft presser with a Sixers hat on
Yeah.
while everyone's asking him about his trade to the Suns.
Yeah.
So
I feel like you just
You
gotta,
gotta
like,
fix that.
as soon as you're done,
And
you
it's
just
such an
gotta throw
easy
that hat
fix,
away,
too.
right?
So I think you got to watch with the love of just seeing how right, how wrong I might be. Maybe that'll provide you the suspense you need.
Yeah, true enough. One of the last things I want to ask you is same thing with the sword. When you're new, and because now you're solidified, so everybody's trying to come to you with some type of information. But when you were newer and getting involved, how did you create a source? How did you go out and build a contact with a Rich Kleiman who was, representing Kevin Durant and whatnot? Because those guys are hard to get to. So what were you doing to get there?
I think initially for sure it was like cold call, cold text to as many contacts as I can find, and it wasn't easy. But then the biggest thing was like going to events, right? Like going to summer league, going to games, like what we talked about earlier, like actually going out in the quote unquote battlefield, actually going out and experiencing it, putting yourself through the wire, through the fire, like actually going through it. That to me changed everything. So when I went to my first summer league in 2013, that was like an eye-opening experience. I was deer in the headlights, didn't know anyone. And I think, that was the first lesson for me is like what makes you uncomfortable. Like you got to make that comfortable, and you need to make that. And then, as many uncomfortable positions you can put yourself in. It sounds tough.
Yeah.
But that's where you really find out about yourself. You put yourself through those experiences. So that's probably the biggest thing for me is like the relationships probably came from events. You guys saw me at the Adidas party. I saw you guys like those events like that, and making the rounds.
I think that's the next step for us because
For
we
sure.
are in a lot of these spaces. We're at Summer League every year. We're at the Adidas event.
I think we have too many moments where we're like, oh, there goes so and so, and we never
Yeah, we don't talk to
take
him.
the step to
just don't
talk
want to
to
step
them.
on
Yeah.
toe. Like, I don't worry. Did we speak to Shams when we seen him? These three gentlemen
Yeah.
decided to take the night off. And we went to
I
the
was
Adidas
not at the
event.
party,
But
and I
it's-
made it a mission. Like,
I
oh, I'm gonna
waited-
go network. I did not network at
I
all.
waited for a terrible hotel stay.
Oh,
Yeah, he chose
Salt
a
Lake-
steak over Adidas.
Yeah, and a new
Yeah.
a restaurant
And
that
his
opened
guy-
the day before.
You were there. Damian Lillard was there.
He
His
was.
guy
Dame was there for a while
Yeah,
too.
he was.
He was there for a while. I think he shut it down there. He was there to like 2 a.m.
Yeah,
But he
wow.
was not on like party stuff.
No,
he
yeah.
was literally chilling.
I see. Yeah, he was cooler. So when you talk about uncomfortable situations, is that you approaching people? And when you do approach these people, Do you go in there pretending that you know them, that you don't know? I mean, there's some familiarity you have to express, but are you in there like, yo, what up, D Lillard?
Bobby Webster.
No, I mean, I think all I can think about now is like when I first started, how I was before, right? And it was a lot of just introductions, like introducing myself because no one knew who I was. I had no entry point to the NBA. I had no relationships, no connection. So they don't know me as much as I know them by their name, but I really don't know them, right? So it's like, how can we, build that relationship and really not approach that conversation with, hey, I need this, or I want this from you. Let's build an organic relationship and see if anything can come of it in a way of, building a professional, back and forth. So I think that for me was the biggest thing, and definitely a lot of deer in the headlight moments though, like a lot of like uncomfortable moments because it's hard to just go up to people that don't know you, that you really don't know them or their story. So that was definitely what was uncomfortable, and then also like my first interviews. First time I interviewed, a player was actually Dwayne Wade, August 2012.
Oh, that's a good start.
That's a big interview.
Yeah, buzz cut. Yeah, I was trembling. Butterflies in your stomach. You're trembling.
Definitely.
You don't know if you're asking the right question. And I think a lot of what helped me early, and I think for young people, for sure, finding your voice with whatever you do, whether you're podcasting, you're writing. But another thing, you have to move, I think, with a level of naivety, with a level of like you really don't know. You don't know what you don't know, but you also don't want to move in a way where you know the answers. So, like, I interviewed Dwayne Wade in August 2012, and then I pull up on him. I think they played the Bucks in November, and he had his feet in the ice bucket.
This is Miami Heat, Dwayne Wade.
Miami Heat, Dwayne Wade. And he didn't have a shirt on. He just had a towel on, his feet in the ice bucket. And I didn't know protocols. I didn't know, you got to wait for a guy to shower, and then you want to approach for an interview. So I just went up to him, and and I think he kind of looked at me weird. The PR guy came over and was like, yo, like, and I think, at the time D-Wade was like, no, it's all good. Dwayne was like, it's all good. And he gave me the interview. And then like maybe 5 weeks later, I'm like, I learned. I'm like, oh, you're not supposed to do that. I fucked up. Damn. And so I actually saw Dwayne at All-Star, and we laugh about that now. It's a funny moment now because I didn't know. And like there's still things now where I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. I got the interview, I got the quotes that I needed to get. So technically I won that day. But I think sometimes not knowing, can be your best teacher.
Yeah, I think is when you new in the media like we were, there's a learning curve to being around people that you're not used to being around. I think you got to learn how to separate being a fan versus like being media and like business.
I agree.
And there was a learning curve for me for sure to learn to be in that space.
The toughest thing for me is the fact that, number one, these guys, women, whatever, they're famous, they're busy, and all eyes are on them. So it's like, for me, I can detach myself from being a fan because after a certain amount of time and years, you're here for work and it's a business and professionalism. But it's like, you don't, when there's people in rooms that everybody is trying to get something out of, it's hard to approach because in their mind, you're just another person that wants something from them. And so sometimes, like, I ain't gonna say nothing because I would imagine, like at the Adidas thing, me and Dane was getting drinks at the same time, and I'm like, I'm not even gonna say anything to him because everybody in his room has probably said something or wants something from him. So it's kind of hard to gauge of like when to, you know what I mean? Because sometimes you don't want anything, you just want to literally introduce yourself, but they have to have a guard up because. Shit, to a lesser degree, we deal with the same thing. All day, my DMs are going, and it's mostly people wanting something from me. It's a whole different level from Dame. I'm not comparing myself to an NBA player, but it's just like you have to,
Same concept, though.
Same concept. So a lot of times, that my hardest part is trying to figure out when to go in and how to approach it to where they don't think you're just another number of a person trying to get something from them.
Right.
Because a lot of the time, it's genuine for me. I grew up on a lot of these guys. I'm a basketball fanatic. You know what I mean? Like when I was reading some parts of your story about you being on Real GM and Hoops Hype and Refreshing the
That
Feed,
was my dream. I feel like I made it.
Yeah.
I made it. Like when I was writing for Real GM, I'm like, I made it. I'm good.
Yeah,
This is my dream.
People from our era, like that's real basketball love of just being on there and refreshing and trying to get any type of information or any action to fulfill you. And so when you get to this level to be in rooms with some of these people, even if they're not playing anymore. Like when we had Jamal Crawford, it's like I had to tell Jamal.
He's a legend. And
Yeah.
he's a great dude.
He's a legend and a great dude. And it's like I grew up on you. So sometimes it's just you want to go and let a person know the admiration, because Jamal Crawford might not be a Hall of Famer, but for us, he's a Hall of Fame in the hearts of us because we grew up on him. And a lot of times it's just hard to balance that. And again, like Darrick said, you don't want to come off as a fan, but a lot of people you just want to simply give their flowers to because they have an impact on your life more than they'll ever know. It's the same thing when we go do a show and people stand there to interact with us. We have more of an impact on their life than we may know. You know, the first time people was asking you for autographs, you like, oh, what the hell?
That's why
you're impacting them.
That's why I think Shams was on point when he was like, you got to have in that mindset like you don't know though, because from right there it just seemed like, oh, I'm already assuming that like I damn near lost the battle already. You might make an impression, you might never forget. So I think that's just like that. I don't know, but connections is so important. You know, I think that's something I personally still need to work on. Probably everybody, you know, still working on that because it's just so important. I seen something that kind of like resonated with me too. It's just like connections that will take you further than just hard work. And it's just like, I could see it going combined with it. It's true. You know, it's just like knowing these people and having these type of relationships, they just get you access to things that, you know, somebody who doesn't can't.
Yep. No, that's right. I think sometimes your proper connections could get you much further than like somebody who may be more qualified. Like if you know the top guy, you can contact him with what the other guy might have to fill out a whole job application, go to interviews and all that. But you could just make a phone call and be like, hey, I just lost my job. You got something for me? And they could be like,
that's the real plug right there.
And then you just push old dude who already got all the qualifications down the line, and now you got the job. So.
I feel y'all, but in this industry, you got to work hard to get those connections.
That's why I say
it feels like there's not a lot of shortcuts.
Yeah,
true.
You know, that's why I
the
said
best way to be.
Yeah, no, I would rather grind for it.
That's why I said it's kind of like that combined aspect to it, but it's just more so just like, oh, I know X, X, and X. It's just you already got the steps there. You already got your foot in the door is what I'm kind of saying.
My last question for Shams before we move on and talk about my Knicks and the predictions of the second round or whatever. What type of things did you take in consideration or did you value when you transitioned from your last company of Yahoo and having to move on to The Athletic and Stadium? What things were you looking for of value when you make a transition from, you know, one place to another?
Yeah, I mean, when you go from like an established company to two companies that at that point didn't have the name, the notoriety, you know, weren't really established in the media foothold. I mean, it's kind of rolling the dice a little bit, but the hunger that they had, like I know at that point when I left Yahoo in 2018, like I was hungry, like I was determined. I still feel like I am, but like I wanted to be around people that had the same energy, the same vibe, the same hunger, the same desire, and The Athletic and Stadium had that. And, you know, to be able to write and keep writing, but then also to be able to do on camera, because I did a little bit of on camera at Yahoo, but Stadium was like, we want you to go to the next level. We want you to be on air every day. We want you to get reps in. And I was all ears of that, because when I first started, I had no visions of doing anything on camera. But then when I started at Yahoo, I'm like, I actually like this. Like, I like actually interacting with a player and like having a back and forth and like interviewing them. Like, that was fun. So I want to just get into more of that. So that's where that came into play, and it's been a great marriage. And this past year, I added FanDuel TV, and that one, you know, another experience where I'm on air a lot more. I mean, I have to do a show at 9 a.m. Central Time, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So it's Michelle Beadle, Chandler Parsons, Eddie Gonzalez, and like to wake up. I mean, to be camera ready and to be able to like, concisely speak on some of these topics at 9 a.m. I mean, I don't think I ever, like, I couldn't have prepared myself for that if I didn't go through this experience with FanDuel TV. And obviously, the biggest concern for me was like the sports betting aspect of it, because my job is very, I'm very direct. Like, I'm about news, I'm about information, I'm about storytelling. And so you add the sports gambling aspect of it and the sportsbook part of it. And I think making sure the lines were never blurred, that it was very direct. Like I might tweet about odds, and I might, you know, it might be referenced on the shows, but I'm not going to be giving picks. I don't even know anything. I'm the last guy you want to ask about. Like, I don't know what the lines mean. I honestly.
Were you extremely nervous going into being on TV versus like just story writing and everything? Like, was that a hard transition for you?
For sure, because that's where the butterflies were, and that's where the uncomfortableness comes from, right? Like when I was doing my first interviews on camera, I was nervous as hell during those interviews. I could just remember my palms were sweaty for sure, like butterflies in your stomach because you're uncomfortable. You don't know what you really don't know what you're doing, and so learning from that, getting the reps from that, and so I started that in 2018. It's now 2023. So it's that 5 years, 6 years, in the making, and I feel like I've gotten a lot better. I feel like there's a lot more work to do, but yeah, to be able to be a part of those companies, to be able to athletic, right, stadium, do my tentpole show. So we'll have a live draft show, a live free agency show, live trade deadline show, and all these different shows that we do there, and then FanDuel TV, and being a part of their big family. And so it's been a dope experience. Definitely nothing that I pictured when I left Yahoo, but I feel like I'm living out the dream already. I feel like I already accomplished my dream when I was at Real GM. So now it's kind of like the cherries on top.
Icing on the
Going,
cake.
keeps going.
Yeah.